Hi, welcome to A Chef Called Rhonda. I'm Rhonda and this is my kitchen. Red, white, and green. That's right, we're celebrating Italian-American Heritage Month. It's the beginning of October, and October marks the Italian-American Heritage Month. And we start that by recognizing the contributions and achievements of Italian Americans. And my contribution to you is my stuffed shells recipe. The taste and texture of stuffed shells is vaguely reminiscent of lasagna, but stuffed shells are much easier and quicker to make. And those who are vegetarians, they have a merit of meatlessness as well. Well, how do we say shell in Italian? Well, that's a tricky one. Con-key-layeee. That means seashell or shell. And that's the name of this recipe. Today we'll be making con-key-layeee, stuffed shells. Stay with me, grab your trusty wooden spoon, meet me back in the kitchen, make our stuffed shells in honor of Italian American Heritage Month. Today we'll start out by making a simple marinara, or I like to call Italian gravy. I have about 2.5 cups of my diced tomatoes, Roma tomatoes, 3/4 cup of nice white onion. Can you see that? Also chopped 3 cloves of garlic, a nice sprig of fresh basil, and can you see that? Of basilico from the garden, 1.5 pounds of my shells. Bring that jumbo shell up close because this is con-key-layeee. And also we have some ricotta cheese, some spinach, some mozzarella cheese, and a bit of Parmesan. Let's start by making our marinara. I'm making a very simple marinara or Italian gravy. And this is meatless. We're just looking for that nice, rich flavor. The theory is we want the bits of onion and garlic to actually be part of the bite. Ladle over our gravy, over our stuffed shells. And I also have about a teaspoon of good quality white sugar. Grandmother always said a little tiny bit of sugar added to our marinara takes the acidic out from the tomatoes. I'll begin by adding my olive oil, add my onion, by adding my garlic, and I'm going to add a pinch of sale or salt, just a pinch. I want to wait a couple of moments so the onion can actually turn opaque. And I have my skillet on medium heat, and I'm just going to tear off my basilico leaves, and I do like to add the basilico just after the onion and garlic starts to turn opaque, and I'll tell you why. It's just a little tip I learned through the course of standing in the kitchen with grandmother. The heat on the fresh basilico or basil leaf really intensifies the essence of the fresh basil. And I'll just turn that once. You can already smell the beginnings. Let me bring it up close. It smells so summer fresh. Now this will render on the back of the stove while we make our filling for the stuffed shell. Now we're going to add our Roma tomato. Take our trusty wooden spoon, and I'm just going to incorporate all that wonderful ingredients from the tomato and the basil marrying into the onion and the garlic. If you'd like to add a pinch more of olive oil, please do so. White granulated sugar, and I'll show you, it's just about a ½ teaspoon. Just this basic marinara over medium heat, and I'm going to let it bubble up, and I'm just going to add about an additional capful of olive oil. The olive oil tends to marinate all of the ingredients together and really intensify and incorporate the flavors together. Duly noted here, I'm not using any black pepper. I'm not utilizing any crushed red pepper. I really want this gravy or marinara to be very fresh, very garden-like, and just enough of a flavor, but not to overpower our filling inside the stuffed shell. Meanwhile, I have my 10-inch skillet here, and I'm going to add about a capful of olive oil. It's over medium heat as well. And part of the filling for today's recipe is spinach, and I like to use fresh spinach leaves. They'll cook ever so quickly. I'm going to just place 2 whole garlic cloves, which I will remove at the end of the recipe. Yet again, we do not want to overpower this recipe. To add our fresh spinach right onto our hot skillet, a spoon of good quality salt, Himalayan pink salt. Brings out the flavor of the spinach that much more. The spinach will take approximately 2 minutes. Abundancy of the spinach, and as soon as it cooks down, it will shrink to about a half cup to a cup. Take our trusty wooden spoon, and it's going to turn our leaves. They look a little dry. You can add a little bit more of olive oil. Spinach wilts away. Oh, it smells so fresh in here though. So at this time, just going to transfer the wilted spinach into a separate bowl. And we're going to remove the 2 cloves of garlic. Next step is to make our filling for the stuffed shells, also known as the conchiglie. We're ready to make that filling now. And I have our simple ingredients, yet again, very easy, very simple. I went ahead and I chopped our wilted spinach. I just ran my knife through it in an effort to save time. I have about a quarter cup of basil, and I'll run my knife through that. I have 8 ounces of mozzarella or mozzarella. I have 2 room temperature eggs and 15 ounces of the ricotta. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack our eggs and gently whisk them. Room temperature eggs, 1, 2. Give the egg a nice little whisk. Add a good quality salt, tiny bit. Give that a good whisk. A large preparation bowl. I'm going to my ricotta, and next we're going to add in our spinach. Down to like a cup and a half, but it's fresh. I chopped it, it's cooled, and we're going to add that on top of the ricotta. Fresh basil, I'm just going to take my leaves and run my knife through it. I'm going to chiffonade the basil, and basically that's just placing the leaves on top of each other, curling it in towards you, basically making ribbons, cutting it about a ½ inch into strips. We're just going to add our basil right on top like so. 2 eggs, gently whisk. And now it's time to add our shredded 8 ounces mozzarella. Take my good quality silicone spatula with my trusty wooden spoon, and I'm just going to incorporate or fold all the ingredients together. Take about 2 minutes, and you really want to make sure you get all the ingredients incorporated. We'll cover this with plastic, and we'll place in the refrigerator, and we will cook our shells ever so gently. Clear that spatula using our trusty wooden spoon. We're having a good time. You can see all the bits right there. You can see the spinach, the basil, the ricotta, the mozzarella. So our filling is covered with plastic. I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator for about, well, I guess it'll be about a ½ an hour. We'll move on to our next step, which is to cook ever so al dente, 2 minutes, our conchiglie, also known as our jumbo pasta shell. Okay, here we are, we're at the stove, and I'm just going to ever so gently place my jumbo pasta shells into salted water that has already been brought to a boil, and duly noted, I'm just going to cook them for about 2 minutes so that they remain ever so sturdy and pliable to work with. I just wanted to make mention, I do have ice cold water here. Run over there, let's get our jumbo shells out of the water, into the strainer, into the cold. And okay, our pasta shells are sitting in our ice bath. I wanted to bring it up. It's not really an ice bath, it's just cold water. I did add a couple of ice cubes, but it's nice and cold just to stop the cooking, show you the partially cooked shell and what it looks like, okay? And it just balloons up ever so gently, and you have your pretty shell, and you'll be able to fill that. Can you see that? Isn't that beautiful? Oh, so pretty. My grandmother used to make these by hand. Allow our shells to sit in the cold water, and we'll go and get our filling, and we'll commence the operation. At this time, I want to say many thanks to all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda. If you haven't subscribed to A Chef Called Rhonda, please, would you consider doing so? It's always healthy, always delicious, and always fun. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them down below. As always, the recipe will be scrolling at the end of this video as well. It will be placed in the description box at our channel's homepage. Thank you again for subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda. Okay. We're back in the kitchen, and we're ready, set, go. We have semi-boiled our jumbo pasta shells. Our marinara, can you see that? Our marinara is finished. And we removed our filling from the refrigerator, and I'm just going to take my silicone spatula one more time and just reincorporate those chilled ingredients. And they were in the refrigerator for about, I want to say about 45 minutes, because I really wanted to give the opportunity for the marinara or the Italian gravy to really take on the flavors of the basilico, the garlic, and the onion, and the tomato, and I really wanted to get that nice flavor going. And the aroma throughout the kitchen is just fantastic. It makes you so hungry. Just as a side note, I about a quarter cup of fresh basil additionally, and today I'm going to be using a 9x13 glass baking dish. And so the operation here is as follows. While I glove up, let me talk to you a little bit about the remaining steps of the recipe. I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees. Once we're finished filling our shells, we'll cover the baking dish with aluminum foil and we'll bake at 350 for about a half an hour. And the last 5 minutes we'll remove the foil and let it really get nice and toasty, and let the cheese come up to the top and bubble up. And then we will let the dish rest uncovered before you serve it. Now, if your intent is to make this in the morning and serve it in the evening, that's fine too. I would keep it covered and then preheat the oven about a half an hour prior to serving dinner and pop it into the oven and let it bake. Remove the foil in the last 5 minutes. So I make certain before filling our shells, I give it a good inspection, make sure the shell has no cracks and that it's a perfectly nice looking shell, like so. Can you see that? Now, to take your trusty wooden spoon and ladle about 2 spoonfuls of marinara at the bottom of the baking dish, okay? And this will serve as the soup, juice, if you will. That marinara from corner to corner. Some onion, I want some of the basil, I want the bulk of the tomato, and I just want to layer the marinara from corner to corner, wet bottom. The next step, I have a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano here, and this is, yes, you can see it, I'm at the end here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cheese grater and I'm just going to go right across that marinara. A nice, rich, salty bite. We'll move our baking dish here. So now it's time to fill our shells. Generally speaking, I use 1 tablespoon. It's just your regular, ordinary tablespoon. I have seen folks use a baggie as a piping method to filling shell as well. I just never did that. I like to use the back edge of the spoon and just clean it up like so. And there we have our first stuffed shell. Can you see that? I'll bring it up close. Can you see that? How pretty is that? And now I'll just place right on our baking dish like so. And this recipe will probably yield about 40 shells or so. I used 1 box of jumbo pasta shells. Show you the process once again. I'll take my shell, I'll inspect it to make sure that there's no cracks or holes or broken pieces, and I'll take my tablespoon of filling and I want to bring it up close. I'll use the side, I'll hold it open with my thumb, okay? You can see that I'm holding it open with my thumb, and I'll just work the filling right inside the shell, like so. Now, before I place it onto the baking plate, I do kind of tightly close it like so, so it looks a little bit sealed, but yet you have a lot of that nice filling and goodness just peeking through. Can you see that? Place it in my baking pan and like place it in my hand like so, and just pop it in and just place it onto the baking pan. Pop the filling right inside. Use your thumb. Use your thumb as a guide here, and just place the filling right into the shell. I want to show you this example here. Pasta shell, it broke during the cooking process, I will discard this. So at this time, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all my subscribers for subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda. It's always healthy, always delicious, and always fun. This recipe is a traditional, classic holiday recipe. You can find it on the tables at Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, Easter time, and yeah, it's well loved by most. Exactly what it's beginning to look like. Can you see that red, white, and green? Just like so. You can see them all lined up nice and neat. So nicely. We already have 20 shells stuffed. It's really easy, real simple, minimal ingredients. It's vegetarian too. This is the classic stuffed shell. Can you see that? Can you see that? Oh, stuffed shell. Making stuffed shells. Woo. Ya finito. We have 32 stuffed shells. Can you see that? Can you see that? Let me bring it up close. Can you see that? 32 stuffed shells. Very simply, our next step, take the Parmigiano Reggiano, and we're just going to grate right across the top. A nice good grating here. That Parmigiano Reggiano will give that a little bit, just a little bit of something extra and special. And folks will say, what's that bite? Right? Because we all know that the Reggiano is the little salty bite of goodness. It's dry and toasty. And now it's time to take up a trusty wooden spoon, going to ladle right across the top, the onion chunky and the garlic finely minced. So those pieces theoretically will fall into the shell and you'll get that nice bit of marinara. You can see the basil. Take the back edge and I'm just going to go ever so gently right across my shells, corner to corner. And I don't want too much liquid here because we added the liquid to the bottom of the pan because we don't want soupy, soggy stuffed shells. We want it to be firm and tight with good texture. Touching every shell, just touching every shell. One more grating of that Parmigiano Reggiano right across the top. You can see that the Roma tomato has that nice diced chunkiness to it. Here, this is what we look like here after we ladled. Can you see that? Can you see the shells? They're just hiding around there, all stuffed and all filled. The smell is heaven. So much easier than lasagna. Simpler, quicker, more fun in my opinion because you're dealing with the shells and they're so pretty. I'm going to go across and give it one more pop of the Parmigiano Reggiano, like so, corner to corner, front, center, back. And this is work. Hi to all my subscribers. Hi. Thank you for subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda. It's always healthy, always fun, always delicious. And we are stuffing shells today. Woo! Conchiglie. Looks like A Chef Called Rhonda needs another Reggiano there. Okay. What I did was when the marinara was cooking, I ran out to the garden and I just got a little bit more of the fresh basilico and I chiffonade. I cut it nice and thin, like I showed you. I'm just going to clean the sides with my mappina. I'm just going to go around the sides of the baking dish just to clean them up a little bit because sometimes the cheese will, or the marinara will jump out and I like to have a nice clean edge on the pan. Finished baking dish of our stuffed shells. Look at that, can you see that? It does resemble the Italian flag, the red, white, and green. What a wonderful way to celebrate the Italian heritage month. That foil, I like to make an edge on that foil like so with my thumbs so it seals it nice and tight. And there we are. We have enough liquid on the bottom, on the top, but not too much so we don't get a soupy, soggy mess. 350-degree oven for a half hour. Remove this foil and cook for another 5 minutes. Okay, I'll meet you back in the kitchen for our taste test. Remove the stuffed shells from our oven and you can look at all the little bits of goodness. You can see the melted cheese on top. Taste test. So we are finito. I enjoyed teaching you how to make Italian stuffed shells. so much today. I hope you folks enjoyed. It's super easy, super simple. Anyone can do this. It just takes a bit of patience and a bit of practice, but certainly you can do this. It's a wonderful Italian dish that you can add to your repertoire and your very own cookbook. Italians generally eat stuffed shells on a Sunday for lunch time, or even as an aperitivo, which is considered the preface to the big meal, if you will. So let's dig in. I have a spatula here. Let's dig in. Let's take our shell, and we'll take one from the edge, and you can see how beautiful. We were so worried, right? Oh, it's going to overfill. It won't look right. It will spill. I want to bring this up nice and close. It's heavenly. And it looks beautiful. The presentation is second to none, and you can see how this can be a nice appetizer at your next dinner party. You can see all the little bits of goodness, the Roma tomato, the spinach, the cheese, and the hardiness of the pasta shell. Because we took careful care not to overcook the pasta shell, it stays in its own little containment, and it almost resembles that Italian flag, doesn't it? Time to take a taste. Let's first smell it. Oh, it smells hearty. It smells Oh, the suppleness of the spinach combined with the rogata and the bits of the Parmesan Reggiano, the saltiness and the tomato finishes so nicely on the palate, and the softness and the suppleness of the pasta shell. I hope you enjoyed today's cooking show as much as I enjoyed. From my kitchen to yours, it's always fun, always healthy, and always delicious. Please, if you liked this video, if you enjoyed learning how to make Italian stuffed pasta shells, please hit that like button, leave us a comment, but most of all, if you haven't subscribed to A Chef Called Rhonda, please would you consider subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda? From my kitchen to yours, I bid you a farewell. Cindan, bravo, mangia, bravissimo. Bye. Bye. Arrivederci. Mangia, mangia, bravo, salute. Cindan. Until we meet again. Bye.